am Muslim. I am a democratic socialist. And most damning of all, I refuse to apologize for any of this.
Now, of course, folks, that is going to be very interesting to see unravel for my former home. Joining me to discuss is Gavin McInnes. He's the host of Get Off My Lawn over at censored.tv. And he is with us now to react. Gavin, I know you were one of the very few people who was calling this out early on in the game. You saw this coming. I saw this coming. Your reaction so far to what we saw last night take place in New York City?
It couldn't be worse, and he couldn't be a worse candidate. I mean, the only question is he retarded or evil? And I think it's both. I mean, the best case scenario is that he's an idiot. The worst case scenario is this is Muslim Brotherhood here to destroy the greatest city on earth. A city, by the way, that lost 3,000 of its members to a Muslim terrorist attack, not 25 years ago. Yet we elect a proud democratic socialist, which means communist, of course. And he's just another one of these rich kids where, just like Karl Marx, they get free stuff their whole life and they go, this is cool. Everyone should get this. But what people don't understand about New York is it's a very unique city in that it's a powder keg waiting to go off. So we had like 2,500 homicides a year, 7 a day in the early 90s. Giuliani came along, and I didn't like it at first. I moved here in the late 90s. He started arresting people for jumping turnstiles and having stop and frisk and all these things that seemed excessive. It seemed like a police state. And all of a sudden, we went down from 7 murders a day to less than 1, where we are now. And that was all Giuliani's discipline. You need to be tough with New Yorkers because they're brats. We've got like 50% of New York City, if you add in like refugees and students and old people, are unemployed. It's already overwhelmed with welfare and idle hands are the devil's plaything. So you have these thugs, these kids just waiting to get into trouble, and Mamdani's about to let them.
Yeah. Well, my friends who are members of the NYPD are outraged and they're really upset. I don't think people understand the ramifications of this. He will now have access to the counterterrorism database, and I don't think many people get that. I reached out to DHS for comment on that because I think this is something that our federal government needs to step in on, because the reality is this guy didn't get his citizenship until 2018. But I want to play clip 18 for you because Steven Crowder, his undercover unit, which is Mug Club, they actually met up, and he didn't know he was being recorded, of course, but they met up with an individual who works for the Mamdani campaign.
Hi, this is Anthony Cumia.
And hello, I am Gavin McInnes.
Together, we're Compound Censored.
And we'd like you to subscribe to our network that has more fantastic content you could shake a stick at. Use this promo code for a one-time super offer.
Do it. It's uncensored and oh so entertaining.
He's one of their canvassing directors. And in this clip that I played repeatedly, he says that Zohran Mamdani didn't just randomly pop up, that in fact he was the plan since 2014. Take a listen.
It's not like this just came out of nowhere. Like, not at all. Like, this has been a coordinated, organizing effort for since 2014.
2014, he became a U.S. citizen in 2018. So that tells you everything you need to know, that we imported someone who obviously had very questionable motives and is heavily funded by people that hate this country. Gavin, your reaction, because I know a lot of people don't understand it, don't see that this is a takeover, not just a communist takeover, but Islam is looking to conquer the West. And very few people understand that what we saw play out in London is now happening here in New York City right before our eyes.
Islam is incompatible with the West. It is the only culture that refuses to accommodate, assimilate. It refuses to bend. Muslims don't see America as America. They see it as conquered land that should be under Sharia law. That is their goal. And they're only 1% of the American population right now. But as we saw in Britain, where they're only probably 5%, they take over towns first. They take over Luton and Birmingham. They're going to take over Minnesota, and they're going to take over New York City the same way Sadiq Khan took over London. And I think I was saying this to Alex yesterday, we're about to have a Muslim problem for the first time ever. We are about to experience what it's like to deal with a culture that wants us to convert or die. And one of the scariest things is Alex Soros getting in bed literally with Uma Abedin and giving her control of his $24 billion open society. We're going to see a big shift towards jihad and Sharia and communism, which makes strange bedfellows, as we saw with the Iranian Revolution. When communists and Islamists get together, they don't get along and everyone suffers. So we are going back to Dinkins, New York, with 2,500 homicides a year. And you got to understand, too, you're talking about the NYPD, they were already bare bones. Like you had guys at the 4 or 5 here in the Bronx doing 30-hour shifts. So they're already taxed to death, literally and figuratively. To reduce them more is going to be absolute chaos.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can't wait to see the numbers. I mean, not excited for it, but the numbers in regards to how many of those NYPD officers and sergeants are going to apply for retirement just to get out of there before Mamdani's sworn in, because I'm sure that number is going to skyrocket. I know a lot of my friends telling me what their deadline is now, and they're going to be taking up that retirement now. Some even losing out on benefits, but they don't want any part in this, and it's sad to see. But again, this is what's going on in New York City, and it's going to be a really, really bad day for them when this takes place. And for all people at home who maybe think that it's a little much when we sit here and say that they don't want anything to do with us when in reference to Muslims itself and Islam, I want to just remind everyone that there's over 100 verses in the Quran which go after and call for acts of violence against those non-believers. So it's not like any other religion that we've seen thus far. And that's why you've seen them involved in so many genocides regarding Hindus, regarding Christians and Jews. So again, time and time again, we have a common enemy, and they even attack their own if they're not that radical or not radical enough for them. So we're not talking about people we have common ground with. They literally hate everyone that's not as radical as them. And again, it's not overstating, it's not fear-mongering. You just have to open up the Quran for yourself, which I normally wouldn't recommend, but read it if you don't know these verses. There's many lists online that will tell you exactly where to go, especially, and this is a part that really gets me, Gavin, I'll let you talk about this too. When you're looking at the numbers, I believe 80% of the voters for Zohran Mamdani, I think someone said, were female voters. Now, if you open up the Quran and read it, for those of you women at home who are not believers in Islam, it calls for some really heinous crimes against you, like potentially becoming their sex slaves. And it's well written in the Quran. We obviously know their prophet was a predator for a 9-year-old girl who he alleged was his wife. Again, this is not something that any women should be associated with. But, you know, Gavin, I sit back and I shake my head because so many women are so poorly researched on this issue, and they think they could get behind a candidate like this when he actually, in fact, is reading something and believes something that says that, yeah, if you're not a believer, that you could possibly be his sex slave.
It's insane. Have you heard of these desis? It's a group called Drum, Desis Rising Up and Moving, and they got him like 150,000 votes. These are mostly Hindus. Muslims murdered millions of Hindus in the formation of Pakistan. As the Hindus went south, they were stopped on trains by Muslims and mass slaughtered, beheaded. Yet these Indians, just like Queers for Palestine, can't wait to vote for him because he's brown. Or I saw that there was all these like signs for Zohran, and I'm looking, they all have turbans on. If you're wearing a turban, you're a Sikh. Muslims killed 1 million Sikhs. They were literally at war with Islam, yet they're proudly voting for their own demise. And it's just based on spite. And we're sitting here talking about how dangerous Islam can be. But that is only one factor with this guy. Like, he literally could not be worse. So he's an Islamist. That's bad. We saw that on 9/11. He's a spoiled brat that's never had a job. That's bad. We don't want spoiled rich kids running the greatest city in the world, the biggest city in America, the richest city in North America. He's also a communist in a city that's already broke. He's also anti-cop in a city that is predicated on crime. Without tough law and order, this whole city falls apart. And he's talking about, we're going to send social workers. We tried that in LA. And guess what happened? Within hours, the cops that had been laid off were then rehired by the social workers, because there's basically nothing more dangerous than an EDP, emotionally disturbed person call. So I'm listing like 5 reasons why this guy is terrible, and we could do this whole show on one of them, Islam. And but they're all equally dangerous. And it's, you know what it is now? Politics has just become spite. Like there was local politics here where I live up in Westchester. That was all blue. The conservatives got slaughtered in New Jersey, all over the country. And what is it based on? Hatred of Trump. And what is hatred of Trump based on? Just discipline. He's here, tough love. Daddy said it's bedtime and you have to eat your vegetables. And they all hate him for that because strong men have created good times, and these good time weak people just can't wait to bitch and moan at Trump. So we are all suffering because of these bitter bitches who are just spiteful because Daddy has started, enforcing a little bit of discipline. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, no, it is embarrassing. And you brought up the LGB point too to this. I want to remind our audience yesterday, we actually uncovered in that alleged ISIS plot that took place in Dearborn, Michigan. I got to page 40 where I found out when they were trying to vet potential places to allegedly take out this terrorist attack, that you just have to go to page 40 and you could simply read that they were actually using and they were looking at many places that the LGBTQ community goes to for bars and clubs. And so obviously this was one of their targets, it looks like, according to this document here you see on your screen. Again, that's the criminal report that came out from the DOJ on page 40. You could read it yourself. But again, these people don't like the rainbow community, and for some reason, they just don't seem to learn that. And there was also the video, too, in Steven Crowder's reporting, which has this individual who's the director of his campaign saying, yeah, we're sending lesbians into mosques, and it's so strange, but we're doing it. These people have no idea what they're getting themselves into, and sadly might actually learn the hard way. But Gavin...
We already went through this. Remember the Pulse nightclub?
Yeah.
How many people died there? Was it like 80? And the takeaway was that a straight man shot up a gay nightclub. And they got amnesia within a week, and it was back to MAGA wants to kill us. Even with the whole October 7th thing, they go, oh, these Nazis, these MAGA Nazis. Who was on the streets calling for the river to the sea, saying we need to globalize the Intifada? It was blacks, it was refugees, it was white, rich kids, Marxist students, everyone but MAGA. Yet no Kings is out there calling us Nazis. Like, these people are their own worst enemy. Queers for Palestine should be the name of this segment, because that is exactly what they're all about. They're chickens for KFC. And, these people are safest under my rule, under a patriarchy, because if they get their own way, if they get their communist Islamist utopia, they're the first to go. You and I will be fine. We're armed. They're going to be toast.
Yeah. Yeah, they have no idea. They literally have no idea. And Gavin, I guess we get into the politics side of all of this, because in New York, I actually was thinking about running for the state Senate. I did so briefly by just going around and meeting with a lot of the GOP chairmen at the county level and at the town level. And I was quite disturbed because I just feel like they were so out of touch with what young voters, and I don't even need young voters. I mean, I'm talking like people in their 30s, what they're looking for. And sadly, they just didn't get it. It's like they were a group of fossils. We have people who only thought that they could vote for Zohran Mamdani because he was talking about reducing the cost of rent. Now, although his method for it is a scam itself, but he's really the only one out there talking about this. When it comes to the Republican Party in New York, are they really doing any type of outreach to try to reach out to people and answer these questions? Because the cost of living in New York is just through the roof.
Well, you've heard of a brain drain. We have a right-wing drain here in New York, not just New York City, but a lot of New York State. They're all going to California. They're all going to Florida. And as you get less and less sane people, you have more and more lunatics, until the lunatics are running the asylum. And that's where we're at right now. Mamdani's only going to accrue more power. AOC could be our next president. She's one of the dumbest people in the history of politics, as inexperienced and socialist as Mamdani is. But as everyone gives up on states like this, the losers get more and more power. So we don't have a Republican base in New York. That's why we're doing things like voting for Cuomo. Can you believe that? Or right now, all my eggs are in Hochul's basket. I'm hoping that she has the sense to prevent him from instituting all these dumb things like $700 million in free buses and $60 million for free grocery stores, and the whole notion of cheaper rent, which is just a made up thing. He promised them the moon. He can't deliver on any of this. So all we're doing is hoping that Hochul, the great conservative hope for New York, tells him that none of this is plausible. That's where we're at. We're relying on Democrats to save us from Democrats.
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting times. Well, first off, she actually said that she wasn't going to allow him to raise taxes because she just doesn't want people to flee anymore. And even Chuck Schumer was like, yeah, I'm not getting behind this guy and endorsing him publicly. That's all you guys. So, you know, it's really, really bad in New York when those who we've deemed as radical aren't radical enough for those they've imported into their party, Gavin. So it's quite interesting to sit back and watch. I want to thank you, Gavin, for joining us today. Again, folks, he's the host of Get Off My Lawn over at Censored.tv. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. And welcome back to Twitter, by the way. I saw that you've recently, a couple of weeks ago, popped back up, and we're excited to have you back.
7-year gulag. That's got to be a world record. 7 years I was banned.
Isn't it crazy? And by the way, before you go, I guess I could ask you this. What's going on with that? Are you finding that you're shadow banned now that you've been brought back on, or do you think that you're getting accurate numbers these days?
I can't tell. I think I'm shadow banned. I don't get a lot of engagement, and the numbers, I get like a new follower every 3 days. So that seems suspicious when you have 250,000 followers.
Yeah.
But, you know, beggars can't be choosers in this world. We vote for Cuomo, we beg Democrats for help, and we thank X for at least shadow banning us, at least for a year.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as bad as what's happened before. So, yeah, you got a point. You got a point. Gavin, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me.
So if you enjoyed that clip,
Then subscribe to Compound Censored using this promo code.